Kwentuhan, tawanan, ngunit maraming matututunan.
This is a podcast of empowered women empowering other women
Through conversations about growth
and wellness.
This is
the GAWfriends podcast.
We are your hosts. I'm Marby.
And I'm Aik. Every Wednesday, we will be sharing tips about holistic wellness
and learning and professional growth.
Together, we will discover a happier
and a better version of you. So hey, GAWfriends,
let's get the fun started.
All right. Good evening, GAWfriends. Welcome back. If you are new here, this is the Growth and Wellness podcast wherein we empower each other, right, and living confidently. Once again, this is Aik and I'm with Marby.
Hi, GAWfriends. Good evening. Welcome back.
All right. March is on. And so as we celebrate the National Women's Month, right, we have come up with 4 episodes for this month. 4 powerful.
Super excited for this episode.
4 very powerful and very inspiring women, right, who have committed their passion, right, into being successful, right? Not necessarily in their industry, probably a new one, right? And so with our guest tonight, Marby, please do the honor.
I am very honored to introduce our guest. When I met her during the Idea Space Day, so Idea Space is a startup competition, startup accelerator program in the Philippines. When I met her, got really inspired by her dedication and her passion to actually empower other women. So it's our pleasure to have with us today a very successful woman. She has over 15 years of marketing, business development, and finance experience across Southeast Asia for many international brands. And she returned to the Philippines 3 years ago to help empower MSMEs and Filipino women so that they be able to control their finances. We need this, GAWfriends, control their finances through technology. And as we know, technology is mostly dominated by men. So this woman said that she's going to penetrate the technology space, and she did it. And so today we're going to hear it from Jocs Pantastico, or Jocs, the founder of Olivia Technology Group Incorporated. Hi, Jocs. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Marby. Hi, Ayik. I'm so happy to be with you, especially in this early month because March is all about women and
Yes.
empowering women. So I'm really glad to be sharing my stories, my faults, my mistakes in this podcast.
Right. I like that you mentioned faults and mistakes because that's part of it. But that's part of your story, right? The things that you missed. Yeah. So let's get the conversation started, Joke. So maybe just to kick off this conversation, maybe you could share with us how are you able to steer your career to get you to where you are now, like with your experience and how you put up Olivia. What took you there, or what did you do to get you there?
Yeah, Marby, that's a really interesting question because when I started my career, I had this idea that the path is linear and it progressively goes up. Maybe sometimes you pause, but essentially it's an upward curve and it's a linear journey. Yeah? No, that was the first aha moment, that was probably the first my major learning through these years. There are realities like career breaks that will happen. It's definitely not a straight line. It's more like a long and winding road, and that's where you will that's how you learn. You will grow. You will fall. And so when you talk about steering, it's not just driving straight. It's actually really trying to maneuver those bumps.
Taking a detour.
Maneuvering those bumps and maybe avoiding some disasters, but maybe sometimes driving through those disasters, right? Sometimes the best way to do it is just to drive through it. So when you say steering my career, in fact, I didn't start as in this field that I'm in now. I wasn't in tech, and I wasn't in a startup. In fact, that was probably the most opposite of where I am now. I started in a corporate, in the corporate world,
Mhm.
and I started in a steering because my bachelor's degree was in journalism,
Wow.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't really work in that field. Yeah, so
Mhm.
talk about steering the right way. Yeah,
Very interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So I started in my career in marketing or market research, and then much like. Ayik, I actually left the Philippines a few years after I started working. So I was based in countries like Indonesia, Singapore, working for multinational corporations in a marketing and market insights role. But even then, now the steering maybe has started because I noticed when I was with this big corporate organizations that I
Mhm.
always wanted to start projects. So I was working for this French company, and good thing along they had this mindset that is intrapreneurial. So being entrepreneurial within a large organization. So they allowed us to work on projects with a small team and act almost like a startup. During that time, I don't want to reveal. Ayoko ma-carbon date, but not so long ago. But the idea of startup wasn't that term wasn't even popular yet, right? So that's why they had these terms like intrapreneurs. So yeah, and then when I got involved in this one project, I can't tell you much details about it, but I said, wow, this is exciting, coming up with a product from concept up to launch, even when and imagine if you can do that by yourself or with a
Yeah.
group outside a big company, right? Because obviously if you're in a corporate, even though they encourage entrepreneurship, there are still a lot of how to say, yeah, there's still a lot more
Limitations.
limitations because there are
Yeah.
Yes.
protocols you have to report and all that, which was fine. So I decided, okay, maybe we can do this. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but I was spending part of my time naman in so my weekend, so I was corporate most of the day, Monday to Sunday. But during my free time, I would be coaching women about, finances, stewardship of money. And then I started to think, hey, if there are women, and I started coaching them because I also made a lot of financial mistakes
Mhm.
when I was growing up. Yeah. And I wished someone had walked with me and journeyed with me through those life changes, and so I wanted to be that, to try to be that someone for some of these women. And so I said, what if we can reach more women and help them? And that's really how all these different events and when I came back to the Philippines a few years ago, yeah, we decided to launch Olivia in this market first. Originally to help women really manage and understand and just get a grip on their finances. So in terms of steering, it's not that you have a map already. If only, right?
Yeah. If
It's
only
not
you
that,
could just
if
uh,
only, right?
plan
And then
it,
you can just
plan
choose your
everything.
destinations cleanly. So it was steering without a map, but steering and adjusting as things happen and as you need to make decisions.
Yeah. And even if you make those turns, right? Being mindful of what you pick up from those points. I think that's what I picked up from that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, no,
doesn't
you're
matter if you do.
absolutely
Yeah.
right. Yes. No, you're right, Marby, because there's a cumulative effect, right? So you learn, and actually, the only skill, I guess, that we can really bring with us throughout is the skill or the ability to learn and unlearn.
I love it. I love that.
Yes. I agree. I agree very much. You know, Chucks, like the passion is really evident, on how you get through, right? Becoming successful. Because not all people will be able to get from point A to point B without driving themselves, really. And for you, that passion, how did passion fuel you to getting there, to where you are now, to your success?
Wow, I think that's a very loaded question because um, how did passion fuel that success? Well, I think passion is a really good and strong starting point,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the reality is that oftentimes it's not enough. Um, because sometimes you're passionate about something, but you don't may not have the skills to do it, right? So I've been through a lot of
True, very
yeah,
true.
I've been through cases like that also where my passion was for A, but my skill sets were nowhere near A. So I think the being passionate is good, but you need the intersection of passion and skill needs to come. The other thing I realized is that two other things I will share about this. Uh, it's not about most often we more often than not, and I'm sure you would have experienced this too, we are passionate about a few things, diba?
Yeah.
True.
So
Right.
having
Yeah.
yeah, and it's the problem is not, it's not about having enough things to be passionate about. Oftentimes, it's about being able to focus on one thing that you're passionate about, and that, as I said earlier, that you have skills for. So it's about focus also, because I also made the mistake of having my fingers in too many
Too
things.
many things.
Oh, yes,
Na
true.
hindi masyadong related. It's good that
Yeah,
if they're related, yeah, and they're pointing to one big umbrella theme, right? But
I
there
agree.
was a point in my life that I was into this, into that, and I ended up so scattered. So walang in the end, nothing really materialized. So I think for passion to be fueled, you need to focus on one theme or one area and really focus your energies on that. The second thing about being passionate or fueling your passion is really about counting the cost. Um, so it's also, that's why it's I in a lot of the women that I spoke to and I was helping or coaching financial in terms of financial wellness, they were passionate about things, but they haven't really counted the cost. So that's one thing that I help them with. Okay, if you want to make this passion project happen, okay, let's look at your finances and count the cost, because in some cases, women worry about money a lot. Right?
Too
Um,
Yeah.
much.
yeah, right. And versus men, we worry about different things. Kasi men worry about the size of the pot. In other words, gusto nila to growing the wealth. For women, it's not really about growing the wealth, but it's making sure that everybody is happy, that the budget is allocated so
Oh,
that
yes.
everyone is happy,
In
diba?
the family.
True.
In the family. So not just allocating the budget, but allocating the budget so everyone is happy. So when we talk about our passion, sometimes we hesitate or we decide not to go through with it because we are not sure that we are prepared financially for it, because we have so many people or family to worry about. So the first thing that you need to do is really just do an audit of what your finances look like, and you may be surprised that, oh, actually I can have this, certain funds that I can spend on my passion.
Things that will
Exactly.
give you joy.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
True.
Yes.
True.
All right.
Totally agree with Jocks, because how can you worry things that you don't even know, right?
Yes.
So, one of the strategies is for you to really sit down and acknowledge how your finances are or how it will be. It's very important for us to really have that reflection first, on how you'd be able to manage things out. So
Yeah.
focus on the things that you can control instead. So
I
Correct.
yeah.
agree. I
Agree.
agree. And that's a good reminder for women because usually, like what Jock said, you think about many things. And sometimes you're neglecting yourself, the things that will bring you joy, the things that you love,
True.
your passion, especially if you have a family, right? Jocks. Here in the Philippines, we're like that, you know? And sometimes my husband calls me out on that. He says, wait, but you buy stuff naman for yourself or you buy that watch that you really like because but sometimes I feel guilty of buying
Oh,
something for
true.
myself because I think it's this is the money that we have, the extra money that we have is for our family. So I think that's a good reminder, Jocks. You have to really count it, your expenses, your cost, right? So
Yeah.
if you have something that you are aspiring for, then you can do it,
True.
right? Okay. And talking about how you started with Olivia, and it's been, passion is a big part of that, but for sure it was a bumpy ride, Jocks,
Oh,
especially being
yes.
in the tech space. So it would be interesting to know, Jocks, like what were your challenges being in this world where it's mostly male dominated, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Right. So actually, even when I was, even before Olivia, even before we launched, I got into the tech startup space. The industries I was in was already quite male dominated, especially at the senior levels. Because they have this. Marby would be even more familiar with this crocodile thing, right? Where when at the lower levels there are a lot of women, but the more senior you get, the proportion of women really dwindles down. I've been in board meetings or board presentations that I was the only woman, or maybe one other woman. So when you talk about female issues, I wouldn't get a lot of head nods. At most, probably, on the other hand, maybe I get a lot of rolled eyeballs, right? Because they're not able to relate to it.
Oh,
So
yes.
one of the obstacles that I found, or sorry, maybe how I'd address that also, is that because I noticed that I tended to rely more on, okay, I feel that we need to do this. No, with men it doesn't work that way. You need to give numbers. There needs to be a logical explanation or narrative for what you want to do for that project. So you can't just say, I feel that there are people who want this product, for example. You can't say things like that. Actually, even at the moment you're at senior level, male or female, you also can't rely on just, oh, I feel something, right? Or I noticed when I was walking down the hall, or when I was coming to work, that there was this problem. No, it has to be, the insights have to be really numbers driven. So you
Yeah.
need to cite, you need to be data driven. You need to say that, globally there are, 50%, and therefore X billion, or how many million women, or how many million people suffering from this problem. So you need to be data driven, not just anecdotal. And that was one of the barriers. The barriers was not really, the men that I encountered in my career, they were actually quite supportive. It was just me who wasn't talking the same language. Yeah. Of
Mm.
course, there were also some obstacles, like, if you don't, uh, especially if you work for maybe US and European companies, uh, you would have to go to like cocktails and drinks, and I
Oh,
I,
yes.
I don't really drink that much. I don't smoke. I don't drink. So,
You see the
and a lot
socializing
the
part, right? That's a big
socializing
thing.
part,
Hmm.
and a lot of decisions and a lot of policies get negotiated during those venues, right? So that was one challenge for me. So what I did was, yeah, I would, attend those events, but I wouldn't drink. I would order my juice or milk, and that came, in
No.
fact, became a laughing, a joke among the team. But they were not derogatory. In fact, they were quite accommodating. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
so
good.
Yeah. And in fact, sad to say that it was, in fact, sometimes the women who tended to be less supportive. Not just of me, but of other women in the team. So, and that's why I really appreciate communities like this and initiatives like this, where women empower other women, because that's so important. We shouldn't compete with each other, even if we're the
True.
same company, the same level. I think let's support each other. There are so few of us already in that level of organization that we really
Very
need to
right.
be supporting each other.
I agree. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's not really about being or conquering or um being stuck in those challenges, but really finding ways
Yeah.
to adjust in the situation and
Yeah.
try to see how you could solve the issues at hand. So for
Yeah,
example,
that's
in
true.
your story, you didn't dwell with the fact that you are probably the only woman in that, but
Yeah.
really trying to find out how you could present in such a way that others would do it too, whether you're a male or a female,
That's
right? So that
true.
you could
Correct. Correct.
communicate.
Exactly.
Yes. I think the other thing I learned, and I think especially for us women, we tend to hesitate to do this, and I
Mm,
really experienced this when I started my startup. And being in a startup or starting a small business, it's a really lonely journey. Yeah? You don't have a seatmate. You don't have a network to really tap into. So the other my advice, siguro, is don't be afraid to ask for help.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Sometimes I felt often I felt that if I ask for help, it means I'm weak, or hindi ko kaya,
Yeah.
or I'm
You lack
showing, I
something,
lack
right? You're not good
something.
True.
Yeah.
enough.
Correct. But in fact, that's not the case at all. It takes a bigger person and a greater person and greater strength to
True.
ask for help, because it takes humility to ask for help. And communities like Idea Space, and now we're part of the AIM Dado Banatao incubator, and having really communities like this, and being able to ask for help. So even simple things like uh, in the early days of my tech startup career, I didn't even know. People kept on mentioning full stack developer. Wow. Okay. I had to pretend that I knew what it was, but actually I didn't understand what does full stack developer mean. So I just simply wrote a note to my Facebook Messenger group or the Viber group. So I said, sorry, can you please explain to me what is a full stack? And all the help came pouring
My
in.
gosh, yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah,
That's really
so it's
good.
really, yeah, it was really great. So, and it took me a while to ask for help. So all this time, all these months that I kept on faking it, that I understood what a full stack developer is, I could have just simply reached out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people just wanting to fit in, all right, on a certain level, they hesitate to ask. But actually, asking means you are acknowledging that you want to grow.
True, true. I
All
never
right.
thought of it that way, but
Yeah.
it's such a good point.
Thank you. And so, a lot of women, for sure, a lot of our golf friends here took a lot of inspiration from, a couple of minutes being with you, Jocs. Really, we appreciate it. And for those who are just about to go through the same journey, or just wanting, having that inspiration from you, what could be your best advice to them?
Best advice for women who want to, I guess, yeah, or who are probably starting
Yeah.
their career. I think, okay, apart from don't be afraid to ask for help, I think the biggest revelation for me as well throughout corporate, but especially through this startup journey and being in a tech startup, I think be in a problem solving mode. Um, because don't take problems as, I will be defeated by problems, but take problems as an opportunity opportunity to grow, opportunity to learn, opportunity to find new ways of doing things. When you're starting a business, whether it's tech or non-tech, whether you're a startup or a franchise, one thing that is constant will be that there will be problems, right? Every day,
Oh yes.
from how do I send this package from A to B, and everybody is out pala, and there are no messengers available.
It will not stop.
It will be nonstop, to things like how will I make the payroll tomorrow, right? And in the tech start or in a startup or small business, all that is your problem, right? That you have no accountant, that you can just, hey, next door, you're probably outsourcing your accounting by this time. You probably are doing everything. A CEO is
Oh
actually
yes.
is a chief of everything
True.
officer, right? So it's the title doesn't mean anything. You will do everything. So I think it's all about being on problem solving mode all the time. Don't be defeated by problems. And I think, Ayit, you're being physically healthy is really important, because those endorphins will really bring you a long way.
For
I can
sure.
feel I can feel it the days that I don't have any physical activity. I'm not a heavy workout person myself, but if 1 or 2 days lang that I don't spend half an hour walking or any physical exercise, I can feel that the endorphins are drained, and my ability to react to problems is really, very much very different.
Mm-hmm.
True. You're right. Shucks. A healthy body and a healthy mind really goes a long
Yeah.
way. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it
Yes.
matches.
Yes. And it helps you it helps you think, right? Especially when you
Yes.
have a lot of goals, a lot of things that you want to accomplish.
Yes, yes. And taking those small breaks, especially now, everybody's work from home. Just take those 15 minutes in between calls, just to, I don't know, even just do jumping jacks in between your
Or even
calls.
just stretch,
Or
just
just stretch. Oh, I love
making
stretching.
yourself mobile. Yeah, it's very
Yes,
important. You're right.
correct.
I agree. All right. Thank you for that advice. I really love it, Jocks. And that's very practical. That's very practical, right? Ask people around and
Very
be in
true.
a problem solving mode, because we encounter a lot of problems every single day. So don't be defeated by those, right? Always
Yep.
think of solutions. Okay.
Yes.
Correct.
Maybe Chalks, how could we find out more about Olivia? Maybe we could talk about it some more, and how could we follow you? Where do we follow you?
Yes, please.
So yeah, so our website is the Olivia app / Olivia Biz. So we've actually expanded our offering. In addition to being able to track your expenses individually, we actually allow employees. The app now enables employees to scan their receipts, so that it automatically creates a report for them, and that they can send that to their accounting or HR departments from wherever they are. So you can find out more about it at theoliviaapp.com / Olivia Biz. And for me naman, I am on Instagram, I think. Yes, it's J
Oh,
Pantastico, Jocs Pantastico. Facebook, I'm not a big poster, but I do post about things about our company. And obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. And I just really reach out. I'm really interested to just listen and share also. And if we share, things like helping women,
Yeah.
young adults, financial wellness, I think I'd really love to hear from you. Or even if you just want
wow.
to ask me a money question,
I
just
think
shoot me a note.
I think that could be worked on another episode, right, Marvy?
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yes.
Financial wellness.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to do
Yeah.
FAQs,
Yeah.
Q&As.
That's
Let's do
awesome.
that.
And you will really adore Jocks when you have a conversation with her, because she's full of wisdom. I
Oh,
remember the
yes.
idea space
Yes.
days, Jocks. Like you'd have start a conversation and she's gonna share a lot. So Thank you
True.
so much,
True.
Jocs, for sharing and being generous about, sharing these stuff with other women. Thank you
So
so
thank you,
much.
Marby.
Thank you so much, Jock. So, girlfriends, you've heard it right from Miss Jocs Pantastico. So, very soon, let's have that financial wellness episode with her. I thank everyone for listening and staying with us. Once again, this is Aik.
And this is Marby. Thank you for joining us today, to our guest and to all of our girlfriends who listen to us in this episode. If you have any comments, suggestions, or if you want to reach out to Jocks, feel free to do so.
Yes.
We're in Anchor and Spotify, and also on Facebook. Feel free to send us a message. Okay, and again, all of these things we do so that we could empower other women as well. So
Yeah.
thank you, everyone. See you in our next episode. Thank you, Jocks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jocs. Bye, girlfriends. Good
Bye,
night.
girlfriends.
Bye, girlfriends.
Oh, yeah.
Bye.
GAWfriends is available on Anchor and YouTube.
You may also find us on our Facebook page. Just search Growth and Wellness so we can continue our conversation together with our fellow GoFriends.
Also, if you wish to collaborate with us, just drop us an email at gawfriends@gmail.com.
Do you like this podcast? Please give us a feedback and share this with your friends and loved ones. See you soon, GoFriends!